The most dangerous lies aren't the ones others tell you, they're the ones you start telling yourself. Let that sit in your chest for a second, my friends, because for too long you've been fed sugar-coated nonsense and dressed-up tactics that sound clever but lead nowhere. You've heard things like play hard to get, or be mysterious, or post that photo so he knows what he's missing. But let's be honest, how's that working out? Let me tell you something real. There's a kind of man out there who isn't chasing filters or falling for a perfectly timed emoji. He's not swiping for a fantasy. He's searching for truth. And most of the time, he doesn't even know that's what he's craving. I'm talking about a man who's been through it. Maybe life knocked him around a few times. Maybe love taught him lessons the hard way. He's got some cracks in his armor, but he still stands tall. This man? He doesn't fall for games. He falls for presence, and not the look at me, I'm dazzling kind of presence. I mean that quiet, rooted energy. The type of woman who walks in a room and doesn't ask to be chosen because she's already chosen herself. That's what stops him in his tracks. That's what reaches deeper than looks ever could. And guess what? That kind of presence, it can't be faked. It can't be filtered. It's felt. Now let's clear something up. This isn't about twisting your words into some Jedi mind trick. I'm not about to hand you some robotic lines to make a man chase you around like a lost puppy. Nah, that's old news. That's shallow water, and we're not swimming there. We're going deep. This is about something I call mental nicknames. And don't worry, I'll break it down for you real easy. But just know this, these aren't cutesy pet names. These are identity awakeners. These are the kinds of words that hit a man like a mirror held up to his soul. When spoken from the right energy, they don't just make him look at you, they make him look at himself and wonder how the hell you saw something he's been hiding from the world. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a man walking through life like a locked vault. Everyone's knocking, trying to guess the code, flashing charm, dropping compliments, playing roles. But then you walk up, say one sentence, just one, and it clicks. Not because you tricked him, but because you spoke to the part of him that's been starving to be recognized. You didn't open the vault. You made him want to open it for you. That's the power we're talking about. And no, this doesn't work on every man, because not every man is ready. Some are still stuck in their ego. Some are chasing validation like it's a currency. But the ones who are awake, the ones who have depth, oh, they hear you. And not just with their ears, they feel it in their chest. You want to be unforgettable? Stop trying to impress. Start trying to reflect. Don't ask, how can I be enough for him? Ask, how can I show up as my whole self so the right one recognizes me? Because listen, you're not here to chase love like a prize at the bottom of a cereal box. You're here to be seen, to stand, to invite, not beg. You're the fire, not the smoke. So if you're tired of shallow, tired of games, tired of giving everything and still feeling unseen, then stay with me. We're just getting started. Oh, and before we go further, if this already feels different, if something in you knows this message isn't about tactics but truth, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let's make sure more women like you find this space where we speak soul to soul. No gimmicks, no games, just presence, just power, just you at your most undeniable. Now stay with me. Now let me explain what I mean by a mental nickname, because this right here, this is the key that unlocks everything. A mental nickname is not some cute word you call him when he brings you coffee. No, my friends, it's a soul-coded phrase. A sentence that lands so deeply it doesn't touch his ego. It touches his identity. It says, I see who you really are, even when the world doesn't. Jung called it the inner image, the reflection we seek in another. When you speak that reflection, desire shifts from surface to soul. Let's get into it. Number one, the protector. The strongest men are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who carry the most and never ask for applause. My friends, let that land in your chest, like a weight you finally decided to stop ignoring. Because here's the truth no one says out loud. Men aren't walking around desperate to be needed. They're desperate to be recognized. There's a difference. We've been taught to say things like, thank you for helping me, or I don't know what I'd do without you. And while it sounds sweet, it often comes from a place of need, not power. But when you look a man in the eye and say, "I feel safe when I'm with you," you're not handing him a job description. You're handing him a mirror. Think of it like this. Imagine a storm outside, thunder shaking the sky, chaos in the air, and you walk into a cabin. No one's talking. There's just a fire glowing, steady, silent, unshaken. That's what a good man becomes when he feels seen for what he gives without effort, not what he fixes, not what he solves, just the peace his presence creates. But I know what some of you might be thinking. Won't that make me look vulnerable? What if he thinks I'm weak for saying that? Doesn't that make me sound too dependent? Let me be clear, there's no weakness in speaking truth from your grounded self. There's strength in knowing you could stand on your own, but choosing to rest in someone's presence. That's not a request. That's a reverent acknowledgement. That's not "I need you." That's "I see you." Most men walk through life proving themselves in silence. The world demands strength but doesn't explain why it matters. You give that strength a purpose. You let him know his calm isn't invisible, it's impactful. And in that moment, his chest softens, not from pride, but from peace. Because when you say, "I feel safe when I'm with you," with calm eyes and steady breath, you don't just compliment him, you crown him. And trust me, he'll remember that moment long after the words have faded. So if you ever wondered what to say that goes deeper than "you're cute" or "thank you," start here. Say it slowly, say it sincerely, and stay with me. Because what's coming next, it doesn't just touch his strength, it unlocks his mind. Number 2, the mindsmith. A man's mind is a room with locked doors, and most people never get past the hallway. My friends, let's be real for a second. The world is obsessed with a man's body, his bank account, his moves, his status. But almost no one stops to ask, what's going on in that mind? And when someone finally does, when someone pauses, listens, not just to respond, but to understand, that's when something rare happens. That's when you stop being entertainment and become unforgettable. Enter the mental nickname I call the mindsmith. The part of him that forges thoughts, ideas, theories, late-night visions he rarely shares with anyone. And when you look him in the eye and say, "I love the way you think," it's not flattery, it's recognition. Picture this. He's talking about something that lights him up, maybe a crazy business idea, a perspective on life, or just a random theory he thought no one would get. And instead of brushing it off or nodding politely, you stop. You lean in. You say it slow from your center. "I love the way you think." You're not saying he's right. You're not saying you agree. You're saying, "I see how your mind moves, and it matters to me." Now, here's where the fear creeps in. Won't I sound too serious? What if he thinks I'm trying too hard? What if I don't even fully understand what he's saying? But let me tell you something powerful. Understanding isn't a requirement. Respect is. You don't have to decode everything in his mind. You just have to honor the fact that he has one and that it's worth hearing. Because for a man who's used to being seen as muscle, money, or mystery, being admired for his mind, that hits different. Carl Jung said, thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. But you're not here to judge. You're here to witness. You're not here to perform. You're here to connect. That's rare. And when you say those 6 words, "I love the way you think," not like a script, but like a truth you feel, that door he keeps locked, it creaks open. Not wide, not all at once, but just enough for you to see something real. And trust me, my friend, what's coming next? That part of him that doesn't speak much, that's what we're about to unlock. Stay with me. Number 3, the calm center. Some men don't say much, but when they're around, your whole nervous system exhales. Let that sink in, my friends. We live in a world that celebrates the loud, the flashy, the fast. But not every man leads with volume. Some lead with presence. He might not be the first to speak in a room. He might not text back with paragraphs or post long captions. But when you're with him, when life is spinning and you're barely holding it together, his stillness, it becomes your anchor. This is the calm center. He's not cold, he's composed. He doesn't fight for the spotlight, but somehow everything feels more stable when he walks in. He doesn't need to fix you. He doesn't rush to offer advice. He just stays, present, grounded, aware, and sometimes that's more healing than anything else. Now imagine this, it's been a long day. You're overstimulated, stressed, maybe even a little scattered. He's there, not saying much, just sitting with you. Maybe it's a quiet car ride. Maybe it's cooking together in the kitchen. Maybe it's a walk in silence. And in that moment, you turn to him and say, "You're my calm when the world gets loud." That's it. No performance, no build-up, just truth, spoken softly. And you're not saying you can't handle life. And you're not asking him to fix anything. You're simply naming the peace he carries and how it impacts you. And here's where the doubts might creep in. Will that make me sound needy? Am I giving him too much power? What if he doesn't know how to respond? Let me flip that for you. You're not giving away power. You're acknowledging his energy, the kind of strength that doesn't need to dominate to be felt, the kind of man who holds space so quietly you only notice the weight of it when it's gone. Jung once said, "Silence is a source of great strength." And when a man hears that his stillness, not his actions, not his charm, but his very presence, creates safety for you, he doesn't puff up. He grounds even deeper. That's when desire becomes something else entirely, not just excitement, not just chemistry, but a kind of trust that holds you both steady. Say it to him when the timing's right, in peace, with presence, and stay with me, because next we're about to speak to the kind of man who shows up when it's hardest, the loyal one, the warrior, and you don't want to miss that. Number 4, the loyal warrior. Loyalty is quiet, it doesn't knock on the door, it just keeps showing up. Let that one land, my friends, because in a world full of fast love and faster exits, staying has become the rarest form of devotion. We've gotten used to people who ghost at the first sign of discomfort, who swipe away anything that doesn't feel perfect. But there's a kind of man who doesn't run. He doesn't need a stage to prove his worth. He proves it in the shadows, by showing up when it's inconvenient, by staying when things get messy. That's the loyal warrior. He may not wear his heart on his sleeve. He may not text, "I love you" with emojis and exclamation marks. But when life gets hard, he's still there. When the conversation turns uncomfortable, when you're not your most graceful, when it would be easy to check out, he leans in, quietly, consistently. He chooses you, not for the easy parts, but for all of it. Now imagine this. You've had a disagreement, maybe it got emotional. You expected him to back off, to shut down, but he didn't. He stayed, he listened, and instead of rewarding him with silence or pretending nothing happened, you look at him and say, "You don't quit when it gets tough," and that's rare. That phrase, it's not casual, it's not small talk, it's sacred. You're not saying he's perfect. You're not saying you depend on him. You're honoring something the world doesn't praise enough, consistency. Now maybe your fear whispers, will he think that's dramatic? Isn't that what anyone should do in a relationship? Am I giving him a medal for doing the bare minimum? But hear me on this. It's not bare minimum anymore. In this fast-moving, commitment-phobic culture, staying has become revolutionary. Being emotionally available and present, especially when things get raw, takes more courage than any grand gesture ever could. Denzel once said, "Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish." So when you see a man choosing consistency over comfort, tell him, reflect it back to him, not like you're amazed, but like you recognize the quiet strength he lives by. Because when you speak to that loyalty, not with expectation, but with reverence, you don't just make him feel appreciated, you make him feel respected. And that's what keeps him leaning in. Stay with me. Because next, we're stepping into a different kind of power, the kind that moves in silence toward purpose, the builder, the quiet visionary, and you're going to want to hear this. Number 5, the builder. Real greatness isn't loud. It's the man who shows up every day, even when no one's watching. Think about that, my friends. We live in a world addicted to highlights. Everyone chasing the spotlight, the applause, the fast win. But the man we're talking about here, the builder, He doesn't care about the show. He's not flashy. He's focused. And he's the one who wakes up early, not to post it, but to get it done. He's the one making choices that won't pay off today or even next week, but he makes them anyway. Because he's building something, a life, a future, a foundation. And no one really talks about these men because their work is quiet. Their sacrifices are invisible. They don't ask for praise. They just keep laying brick after brick, even when the world claps for the wrong things. Now picture this, he's deep into his routine. He's tired, but still pushing forward. Maybe it's his job, a side project, taking care of his people. It's not glamorous, but it's consistent. And in that ordinary moment, you pause, look him in the eye and say, I admire how you move toward what matters. Not you work hard or you're so busy. This question mark. This tells him you see past the motion, you see the mission. You see why he does what he does, and that hits different. But I know what might pop into your head. Won't that sound too intense? What if he brushes it off? Shouldn't I wait until he's achieved something big? No, you don't wait for the result to recognize the integrity. You don't wait for the finish line to clap for the footsteps. Builders don't need celebration, but when it comes from someone who truly sees them, it fills a space they didn't know was empty. Jung once said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. That's what the builder is doing, following a heart vision. You don't need to understand every piece of his plan. You just need to respect that he has one. When you say that phrase, I admire how you move toward what matters, you don't just support him, you ignite him, because suddenly the grind feels seen, the effort feels felt. And that, my friends, is fuel. So stay with me, because next we're not talking about order, we're talking about fire, the man who breaks the mold, the untamable, and he's waiting to be understood. Number 6, the untamable flame. Some men weren't made to walk in straight lines. They were born for wild skies and crooked paths. Let that hit, my friends, because this next man, he doesn't fit the mold. He breaks it. He's the untamable flame, intense, passionate, restless, full of ideas and fire that won't sit still. The world keeps trying to box him in. Tell him to calm down, be practical, be polite, be less. But deep down, what he's really looking for isn't control. It's freedom with connection. This is the man who dreams out loud, who starts things without knowing how they'll end. He speaks in sparks. He moves with urgency. Sometimes he's misunderstood, even feared, because you can't predict him, but that doesn't mean he's unstable. It means he's alive. He doesn't want someone to chain him down. He wants someone who looks at the fire and doesn't flinch. So imagine this. He's pacing the room, full of an idea. Or maybe he's opening up, sharing a vision that others would call too much. And instead of doubting him, instead of trying to ground him, you lean in and say, there's something in you that never gives up, and that turns me on. You didn't just compliment his ambition. You touched the part of him that's been fighting to exist his whole life. And instead of shrinking it, you admired it. That's rare, and I get it. You might worry, what if I fuel his ego? What if he runs? What if his intensity overwhelms me? But here's the thing, you're not here to tame him. You're here to reflect his fire without losing your own. You're not giving him permission, you're giving him presence. And that's magnetic. Denzel once said, you pray for rain, you gotta deal with the mud too. Loving this kind of man means embracing both, his brilliance and his chaos. But when he senses that you don't want to change him, don't want to dull him, don't want to outshine him, but simply see him, he softens in a way the world has never earned. Because the moment you stop trying to catch him and simply let him be is the moment he stops running. Say it and mean it. Speak to his edge, not his image. And stay with me. Because next we're stepping into the man who speaks the least but holds the most. The one who doesn't conquer through noise but through presence. The man of steel and calm. Let's go. Number 7, the silent strength. You'll miss him if you're only listening for noise because his power moves in silence. Let that settle in, my friends, because some men don't impress you with grand speeches or dramatic gestures. Some men don't fill the room with stories, they fill it with presence. Solid, unshaken, rooted, They are the silent strength. You may not notice them first, but once you do, you'll never forget the way they made you feel safe without ever having to say a word. This man doesn't lead with flash. He doesn't need to. His power isn't loud, it's felt in the way he listens fully, in how he stays calm when everything else is spiraling, in how he looks at you like you're the only voice that matters in the middle of the storm. He's not in a rush to respond. He's not trying to win. He's just there, centered, quiet, steady. Now picture this. You're having a hard day. You've vented, maybe cried a little, maybe gone quiet. He hasn't offered solutions. He hasn't interrupted. He's just sitting with you, unbothered by the mess. And in that moment, when the world finally slows down, you turn to him and say, "You're a rock. Your presence is my anchor." That sentence, that's not a thank you card. That's a recognition of something he probably never hears. Because most of the time his strength gets taken for granted, or misunderstood as coldness, or passed over for someone more expressive. But when you name the weight of his stillness, when you let him know that just being near him settles you, it goes deeper than praise. It goes into his bones. Now maybe the doubt creeps in. What if he thinks that's nothing special? What if he doesn't say anything back? What if he doesn't even know what to do with it? That's okay. He doesn't need to answer. He just needs to feel seen. Carl Jung once wrote, "The foundation of all mental illness is the unwillingness to face legitimate suffering." But this man, he faces it quietly, daily, without needing a medal. And when a woman notices that, when she sees the strength in his calm, not just his effort, that's when he lets down the walls. That's when he offers more, not from obligation, but from trust. So say it gently, say it slowly, and say it when nothing needs fixing, only holding. Now stay with me, because what comes next isn't about who he is now. It's about the man he's still becoming, the becoming king. Let's step into it. Number 8, the becoming king. The most powerful thing you can give a man isn't your body, it's your belief in who he's becoming. Let that land softly, my friends, because this man right here, he's in the middle of a journey, not the polished, post-worthy kind, not the success story with the highlight reel. No, he's in the becoming. And that space, it's messy, it's uncertain, it's sacred. He's not who he used to be. Maybe he's broken some patterns. Maybe he's working through his shadows. Maybe he's tired of carrying expectations that don't fit him anymore. And no, he's not perfect, but he's showing up, trying, rebuilding, growing, quietly, painfully, beautifully. That's the becoming king, and the world doesn't see him clearly yet. Some people still judge him by his past. Some just want the finished product, but you're different. You see something in him that isn't fully formed, but it's there. And when you look him in the eyes and say, "I believe in the man you're becoming," you're not feeding a fantasy, you're watering a seed. You're not saying, "Hurry up and be that man." You're saying, "I see who you're growing into, and I respect the climb. And yes, I know the fear that can whisper, what if he doesn't become that man? Am I setting myself up for disappointment? What if I'm believing in a potential that never blooms?" But here's the truth. You're not believing blindly. You're not projecting. You're recognizing effort. You're seeing character being forged in real time. And sometimes a man becomes the best version of himself because someone finally saw the blueprint before the building was finished. Denzel once said, "True desire in the heart, that itch you have to be great, that's God's proof to you sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours." That quote, it's not just about us. It's about him too. So when you say, "I believe in the man you're becoming," say it slowly. Say it in his doubt, in his silence, in his uncertainty. Say it not to fix him, not to push him, but to remind him of what he's already reaching for. Because belief like that, it doesn't just support, it awakens. And that, my friends, is where desire becomes legacy. What you just heard, my friends, wasn't a list of tricks, it was a map. A way to speak not to his image, but to his essence. When you use these mental nicknames with presence and truth, you don't just attract a man, you awaken him. So if something stirred in you today, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe for more soul-deep conversations, and share this with someone who's done chasing and ready to connect. Because real love doesn't start with performance. It starts with presence. Stay grounded, stay glowing, and I'll see you in the next one.